Support for WUWM podcasts comes from University School of Milwaukee, fulfilling a values-based mission of developing learners, fostering leaders, and preparing citizens for pre-kindergarten through 12th grade. More information at usm.org/mission.
Lake Effect brings you conversations about what's happening in Milwaukee and the people, places, and organizations that shape the community. This is Lake Effect Spotlight from WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR. It's been almost 2 years since Israel started a bombing campaign in Gaza after the Hamas-led attack on October 7th, 2023. That attack killed close to 1,200 people in Israel. Thousands more were injured, and 251 people were taken hostage by Hamas. Since then, more than 65,000 Gazans have been killed in the war. Independent surveys estimate the actual death toll could be even higher, and Israel's bombing has destroyed much of the territory, where over 2 million people still live. Amid that wreckage, 3 Milwaukee residents have made the trip to the Palestinian territories to offer help where they could and check in on loved ones. WUWM's Jimmy Gutierrez brings us their stories as they recorded audio diaries of their journeys, documenting what they witnessed firsthand. A warning to listeners, there are graphic descriptions of violence and sounds of war in this story.
For almost 2 years, Gaza has been in the headlines. The bombings and destruction have all been live-streamed digitally nonstop, so it might be easy for some people to put it to the side and not pay attention. But for 3 people from Milwaukee, it meant moving closer and helping where they could.
Nasser Hospital, the hospital I went to when I was in Gaza, is truly the last functioning hospital in Gaza.
This is Aziz Rahman. He's a doctor from Milwaukee, and he spent 2 weeks in June volunteering at Nasser Hospital in Gaza.
Obviously, there are other hospitals and field hospitals, but they are not functioning at the capacity that a major hospital for a country should be running at.
Aziz says this has to do with Israel blocking medical supplies to other hospitals to the north. He says it was difficult to not just sleep, but rest, because Nasser Hospital was nonstop busy. Even early on, you can hear how mentally exhausted he is in his diary tape.
I have so much reflections I would love to share, but the common theme is people are hungry here. There's no food, and everyone's depressed. And at the end of the day, they just rely on God to keep them going. And it's been the most amazing experience of my life. All right, man, I'm just really pensive right now. It's at nighttime, 11 p.m. Long day today, just helping different specialties out, trying to figure out how I can help best.
As rough as the nights were, the days were worse.
As you can imagine, I was excited to start the day, and suddenly the alarm started ringing, which means that there's another mass casualty event as per scheduled for the opening of the aid. It's very not sustainable.
He's talking about the humanitarian drop-off aid sites, which some human rights orgs have called killing fields.
I've never seen anything like this in my existence. It was just absolute chaos. Hundreds of people coming in. Families are bringing bodies in, just putting them on the floor, all headshots from the Israeli soldiers. It's like direct shots. There's no rational, moral, ethical explanation for this. It's just disgusting, and it's real.
Aziz calls the aid drop-off sites a farce. To be blunt, the stories he shared are just too graphic for me to share them, and there are too many to choose from. But his whole purpose in going to Gaza was to be able to help, provide some assistance, use his expertise. And in Nasser Hospital, he found that calling. But he also found nightmares. Just a few days later, there was another mass casualty event at a distribution site.
I mean, it's just like a assembly line of death. And while all this is happening, you just look above and you hear this drone buzzing, tanks shooting, machine guns gunning, snipers sniping in the distance. And who comes in after those? Civilians, little children, women, young men. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. It literally doesn't make any sense. You know, only 30, 50 years later is the world finally going to wake up and say, yeah, that was genocide. Let's not do that again. Until, of course, in another 50 years, they do it again. I I mean, this is absolutely insanity.
Israel denies genocide, and many media organizations like NPR do not label what's happening. However, a UN human rights inquiry just determined that this is, in fact, genocide.
It is Friday, August 15th. I am here in Elvira at my grandparents' home.
This is Hiba. She's an organizer and activist in Milwaukee.
Their family has been in the same house for decades, which is a huge privilege, and we're here sharing lunch with my aunts today.
Hiba's been visiting her family in the Israel-occupied West Bank ever since her childhood. She said a lot of life happens in front of this house. Traffic passes by, kids run to the store, laughing as they go get treats down the block. It's a place of comfort. But tonight, she can't stay here.
Every single night for the last several months at least, the Israeli occupation forces have been roaming the streets of Elvira, sometimes coming to raid homes and kidnapping people, sometimes firing tear gas at folks, all in the name of intimidation and control.
She says it wasn't always like this in the West Bank, but the occupation has ramped up over the past few years. She says she sees it when she talks about it with her family.
I would say a lot of it is in people's personalities and how they're understanding the circumstances that they're living in. I think there's an underlying fear that I've heard from folks, and perhaps a reluctant recognition that life here in the occupied West Bank will continue to get more difficult as more time passes with Israel operating with total impunity.
Just as more countries have recently called for a Palestinian state, Israel has threatened the annexation of the entire West Bank, basically making it a permanent part of Israel. She says the inequality is felt everywhere, in everything you do, even when it comes to accessing precious resources like water.
Where we were staying at my uncle's home, they get access to water 1 day per week for 12 hours a day. So 12 hours of water access for the whole week. And what they end up doing is, and this is what every household in Palestine does, they have tanks on the roof of their home or on the roof of the apartment building that fill up with water when that 12 hours of access comes. And in some places, maybe they get more time to fill their tanks. In other places, they get less time.
This matters because water matters. But it's more pressing than ever because as Hiba was visiting, the West Bank experienced an unprecedented heat wave.
It's becoming impossible to live summers here without fans or AC units. Yet at the same time, when everyone's using them, the power goes out from overloaded electrical grids. That's what happened to us on one of these exceptionally hot nights just a few nights ago. And still, even as the heat was the only thing on our tongues, Gaza was in our hearts and our minds. Everyone would stop complaining and say a prayer for our siblings in Gaza who are suffering under the exact same heat, but without water, shelter, relative safety, or food even. Allah ain them.
Pues para mi gente, soy libre, una boricua en Gaza, sigo vivo y aquí hay un par de updates.
This is Libre. He's also an activist originally from Milwaukee. For the past 17 months, he's lived in Gaza City, giving regular updates from the ground over Instagram.
So I initially came in to do logistics for this medical solidarity organization.
Coordinating travel for healthcare workers, communicating with hospitals, lining up where people would stay. That's just a part of it. He's also worked in a community kitchen. He's helped distribute drinkable water, which he says is hard to find since the natural aquifers were contaminated.
I've also volunteered as an English teacher at a temporary learning space because all schools have been destroyed in Gaza. So
in almost all the diaries Libre sent me, you can hear drones flying above him. Sometimes explosions going off in the distance. Some sound much closer than others. He thinks a lot about Milwaukee, still keeps in touch with friends. In one of the voice notes, he wished that people in Milwaukee understood that what's happening in Gaza has a direct impact here.
When I wake up to bombs, like this morning at 6:47, there was one loud bomb. I woke up, looked, I saw the smoke plume coming out of a building. And I always think, growing up, we didn't have a lot. And the country, that government says you can't have free education. You can't have healthcare. You can't get better streets. Milwaukee has these wild potholes, that are huge, but you can't have good public transportation. You can't have good infrastructure. And I think about that, and then I wake up to bombings, hundreds of thousands, millions, and billions of U.S. military spending, and I think the government's telling us exactly what they care about. And it has nothing with improving the quality of life of the people of Milwaukee.
Listening to his audio, something that jumped out to me was this dichotomy of his experiences. There's beauty and pain. I see it in the relationships that he's made and in the people that he's lost. The places that he's seen crumble and the natural beauty that still exists, like Almina, Gaza seaport.
Being at Almina is always a beautiful moment to kind of sit with the sea. If you have good company, some Arabic coffee and sunflower seeds, you just sit and you can stare, and it can be beautiful. And it's also a reminder of what once was and that was taken away. And so it's a bit of everything and brings up a lot of mixed emotions. Now it's like full of tents and forcibly displaced Palestinians, and going into the sea is prohibited by the Israelis. It's crazy, it's summertime, like everyone should be able to enjoy, and some people do, as they should. Who controls the sea? No one. The sea belongs to itself. So, yeah, being next to the water is always a beautiful and painful experience.
Libre doesn't know how long he'll stay in Gaza, providing updates on what's happening on the ground. But it doesn't sound like Milwaukee is for him anymore. For Aziz Rahman, even though he was gone for only 2 weeks, he's not sure how much of himself returned.
After a long plane ride back home, I landed in O'Hare. My beautiful family was waiting for me. And my little girl, 6 years old, had a little sign that said, "Welcome home, Baba."
Aziz also has a 9-year-old and an 8-month-old. He was afraid that the baby would forget him over those 2 weeks. Of course he didn't.
And it made me happy and filled me with joy and happiness and hope, but also made me sad because my baby was fatter. His arms and his legs were chunkier, and I wished I could have given some of that to the babies in Gaza who are literally starving. And my kids jumping up with joy contrasted with the kids in Gaza who could barely smile, could barely frown, could barely cry because there's no energy on their face. Really hit me hard.
Hiba says she won't soon forget the indignities of the trip, but it's the tender moments with family she replays.
Every single day, we were at a different relative's home, eating food that they had lovingly and considerately prepared for us, including in ways that accommodated my food allergies. I also got to pick figs from my family's trees on more than one occasion, which is a tradition and a memory that is like stamped into my spirit. That is something.
During the trip, she went to weddings, baby showers, met kids that she hadn't seen in years grow up, something she was grateful they could do.
I went into this visit with a perspective of wanting to see for myself and to understand how the conditions of occupation have worsened and how they're affecting Palestinians, including my family, in the West Bank. But there's also a lot that remains the same in our people. It's a love for life that can't be stomped out by the occupation. And that's ultimately what we're fighting for when we talk about fighting for liberation. It's the rights of every person to live freely and in dignity. And that's ultimately what every single person on the face of this earth wants, even if they've never had to face a reality that strips them of those rights and makes them want for them.
And this is where the story was supposed to end, until Libre recently posted a video that shook me. In it, you can hear gunfire and bombings. A woman wails in the back as ground forces are close.
Hey everyone, it's Libre Boricua in Gaza. I'm here in Gaza City, where just this morning the Zionist occupation forces dropped pamphlets saying everyone that stays in Gaza City is a terrorist. We know that's not true.
This video is unlike anything he shared so far. His face looks panicked, and I haven't heard his voice shake like this.
This is our last message. We have to prepare to evacuate. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if we're going to reach our destination safely. But this is our last communication for now.
As he signs off, something happens. An audible explosion, close, incredibly close. And then the screen goes dark.
Too many places, too many memories. Sigue pa'lante, siempre pa'lante. And take care of my people.
I don't know what to make of this video or what happened to Libre. I didn't hear from him after reaching out for hours. Then finally the next morning, he posted that he was safe, but forced to evacuate. Waiting to hear back from him over that time is what I imagine a lot of other people have felt over the past 2 years. Feeling so close because of social media and bearing witness, but ultimately feeling powerless, just waiting for the dust to settle. That's how it felt listening to these audio diaries from these three as they traveled to Gaza and the West Bank. It was nerve-wracking. The messages carried anger, fear, grief, and also hope. Aziz reconnecting with Amir, one of the kids he performed emergency surgery on, eventually saving his life. Hiba carrying on family traditions and making new ones. Even Libre's sign-off, siempre pa'lante. Keep going. Keep fighting.
That piece was produced by WUWM's Jimmy Gutierrez. He spoke with Milwaukee natives Aziz Rahman, Libre Sinkara, and Hiba. We're not using her full name due to her concerns of retaliation against her and her family. You can find more interviews like this one by visiting WUWM.com/Lake Effect. And while you're there, subscribe to the Lake Effect Spotlight podcast.